I enforce my strength, my mind strength. That's what's more important to me now. The niggas see that this is not no accident. I plotted every single step from this to this.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everything's plotted.
It's still that the next shit is called Killuminati, because that's really what the Illuminati is on.
That's why I put the K to it. Because the niggas is telling me about this Illuminati shit while I'm in jail, right? Like, the dollars.
Right.
That's another way to keep your self-esteem low. That's another way to keep you unconfident.
Right.
And I'm putting the K because I'm killing that Illuminati shit. Trust me, if these motherfuckers wanted to kill you, why the fuck they gonna tell Farrakhan? Why they gonna tell the Nation of Islam? Why they gonna tell this nigga in jail about the plan? How did he know?
Right.
How did it leak to him? Who told him? Who told him? The Pope? Who? Because they like the Pope and the money. Oh, come on, man. You so thinking about the money, you not getting the motherfucking money. Get the money, nigga. I don't give a fuck who face on there. You know what I thought when I was in jail? What fucked me up, what turned me like this, is I was like, no politicians is even getting at us. Even though I represent 5 million fucking sales. And no politicians is even checking for us. They're not even sending us nothing to try to make us. They're not even thinking of it. And in business, you know, if you want to fuck with somebody, you know, you try to, they're not even looking at us like that. That means we ain't a threat.
Right.
But by the next election, I promise, by the next election, I promise, I'm going to be sitting across from all the candidates. I bet you. You know how I'll be making it? I promise you. I'm not even going to be, I'm going to be so far from where I am now in 4 years. God willing, I'm alive. It's on. I guarantee you, we will have our own political party. And it won't be just for black people. It's going to be for Mexicans. It's going to be for Mexicans. It's going to be for black people. It's going to be for Armenians. I don't give a fuck. All you lost tribe motherfuckers right now, we need to have our own political party because we all have the same motherfucking problem. We built this nation and we get none of the benefits.
Tupac Shakur, Breaking the Oath. I guess a lot of folks are wondering, what exactly am I talking about? Tupac breaking the oath. Yeah, he did. Some folks seem to believe that Suge Knight was upset that Tupac wanted to do other things and had him executed. Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. And for those of you who think Tupac is alive, think not. Tupac is very much deceased, folks. But he was like Elvis when he was alive. There's people love him so much, they just refuse to let him go. Here's a clip on how Tupac got signed with Interscope.
Adrian had been shopping my demo tape as a solo artist. Then all of a sudden, Interscope got in touch with us, and I was told that Ted Field, this millionaire, multi-millionaire, his daughter had heard my demo, and she liked it. So he was like, that's how I picked you. And I was like, whoa, tell your daughter thanks.
Tupac was on a roll. Me Against the World. I mean, Dear Mama. His album did exceptionally well. He was behind the bars. You see, when Pac brought Me Against the World out, it beat out Bruce Springsteen. But Pac just couldn't stay out of trouble. If it wasn't his girlfriend suing him, it was his friend. It was the rent-a-car place. Everybody wanted a piece of Pac.
Central, I got a black male shot at 48 and 7.
5 times, if that wasn't insult to injury. Even though Pac was shot 5 times, and that was definitely an orchestrated hit, and we'll get to that later, Pac seemed to still go to the left instead of go to the right. You see, Pac lived most of his life in the studios, but Pac was the type of guy that everybody loved to hate. So no matter where he went, he still found himself in lots of trouble.
Where I was sent was a maximum security penitentiary.
When Pac did his small bid in the penitentiary, Jimmy Iovine, and all the bigwigs out of Interscope just about had enough of Pac. Pac was uncontrollable because he hated being controlled. But Pac knew the oath of the Baphomet very, very well. We'll get into that a little bit later. Well, no one came to his rescue, so Pac put a contract on a napkin and sought after Suge Knight.
Rapper, actor, and sex abuse convict Tupac Shakur walked out of a New York jail last week, bailed out to the tune of $1.4 million by Suge Knight of Death Row Records, which has signed Shakur to a record deal.
Tupac made the worst mistake of his life to team up with Suge Knight. Now don't get it twisted. Tupac already agreed to the oath of the Baphomet when he signed with Jimmy Iovine on Interscope, because that's the only way you're going to get a deal. Seen in this picture, you can see Suge throwing up the Baphomet. That's how Suge get down. That's how Suge get paid. Suge Knight encouraged Tupac to keep this East Coast West Coast thing going because it was good for the money. But when the blood started spilling on Tupac's hand, Tupac got a little bit discouraged.
And the East Coast West Coast thing is something that the journalists and people are making that just to get paid off it, so it can drag out and everybody can have albums. They're perpetuating it so it could be drama. When it all go down, don't look at me and Biggie and be like, why is there a big East Coast West Coast war when you're shooting this to 300 homes, 300 countries, telling them about an East Coast West Coast war that they would never know exists. So that's where information becomes a problem.
Take a close look at Snoop Dogg, because in days to come, Snoop knows that something's going to happen to Tupac.
And the East Coast West Coast thing is something that the journalists and people are making that just to get paid off it, so it can drag out and everybody can have albums. They're perpetuating it so it could be drama. When it all go down, don't look at me and Biggie and be like, why is there a big East Coast West Coast war when you're shooting this to 300 homes, 300 countries, telling them about an East Coast West Coast war that they would never know exists. So that's where information becomes a problem.
Snoop knows Tupac's life is in danger days before his death. I want you guys to take a close look at this picture. Dr. Dre is a Mason, Baphomet, Snoop, Suge, but the picture was deliberately taken like a pyramid. Take a close look. This is a pyramid, and this is the back of a dollar. Now let's bring the picture back. You see, these guys are satanic, man. They know exactly what they were doing. That's how they get paid. Now, Suge had love for all those guys, but he had the most love for Tupac. So he didn't care if Dr. Dre left or Snoop Dogg. His main concern was Tupac. Yes, folks, I'm afraid to tell you, Tupac was a part of the Baphomet, as seen here with the hand gesture. And I know a lot of you are going to argue me down, but let's go back to another guy, Nelly. Nelly is seen giving up his hand gesture for the Illuminati Baphomet. He is holding his sign downward. Tupac is holding his upward. Don't get it twisted. They both are the same. Nelly is holding his downward. Tupac is upward. Moving on. Suge had a look on his face that he knew something was getting ready to go down. There was no doubt that Suge Knight orchestrated the hit on Pac. Now I want to go back to the first hit that took place in New York with Biggie and Puff Daddy.
The Tupac article had me pissed off, you know what I'm saying? Because first of all, he dissed my man, said my man turned his back on him, and I know for a fact that didn't happen, you know what I'm saying? And like the rumors that's spreading is on some tip like we set him up, you know what I'm saying? And that's crazy.
Puff Biggie knew exactly who shot Pac. I want you to take a close look at Puff Daddy's reaction. He's guilty as hell.
The Tupac article had me pissed off, you know what I'm saying? Because first of all, he dissed my man, said my man turned his back on him, and I know for a fact that didn't happen, you know what I'm saying? And like the rumors that's spreading is on some tip like we set him up. You know what I'm saying? And that's crazy.
I know what good morals are, but you're supposed to disregard good morals when you're living in a crazy, bad world. If you're in hell, how can you live like an angel? You're sitting here surrounded by devils and you're trying to be an angel? That's like suicide.
You notice in the statement Pac said, how can he be an angel surrounded by devils? Pac knew everyone that he was encountering with was a part of the Baphomet. Pac was also obsessed with death. That's why he had a bracelet made with the angel of death wrapped around his neck. And everyone knows what the angel of death represents. Tupac dissed Dr. Dre, calling him out, saying that Dre can't make up his mind on men or women. When Dre should be producing, he's upstairs sucking dick, eating pussy. This interview was made in 1996, also that same year, dissing Quincy Jones, saying that he was invited to Q's house. Tupac seen Q's daughter and wanted to holler at her. However, Q asked Tupac if he could have a moment with him, and asked Tupac if he would fuck him in the ass. Tupac replied, "I don't get down like that." When Tupac put this on tape, he broke the oath. His life would be in danger until his death.
I would love you even if you had no ears to listen, had no vision. Because if love is blind, why do I keep having to change my prescription? Love you even if you didn't have no legs, cause you couldn't walk all over my heart. Where do I start from the beginning? I love you despite your bad breath. I'll just blow kisses and walk with my hand over my mouth before I have to leave you. Believe me, I love your dirty draws. I get nervous when I see you. You see me, my heart beats a little differently. My stomach not butterflies, just flies.
Normally, when Tupac talks, he talks with a lot of character. But in this clip, he's trying to convince everyone he didn't sell his soul.
The reason I am who I am today is because I can look directly into my face and find my soul. It's there. It's not sold. I didn't sell. I didn't sell. Sold. I didn't sell. It's there. It's not sold. I didn't sell. I am who I am today is because I can look directly into my face and find my soul. It's there. It's not sold. I didn't sell it.
In 1996, things started to get really ugly for Pac. Pac had got to the point where everything he'd become, he still wasn't happy. You would think doing movies, being in sitcoms, being cameo appearances, it would brought him joy. But the thing that was troubling Pac is how he got it. See, Pac knew the truth, and the public didn't know the truth. He knew he sold out to Baphomet to get a recording deal. That's the only way you get in Hollywood. You have to sell out to the Baphomet. That's just one part. If you want to be in movies and star in movies and change your whole career, you have to go to the director's couch. By this time, Pac was feeling suicidal.
I felt like just a prisoner to my own fame. That's why I wanted to die at that point. I felt like if everybody was so goddamn worried about me, why ain't nobody came to help me?
Tupac, go ahead and rock
now
this.
I clown around when I hang around with the underground. Girls used to frown, say I'm down when I come around. Gas me, and when they pass me, they used to diss me, harass me. But now they ask me if they can kiss me. Get your fame, people change, wanna live their life high. Same song can't go wrong if I play the nice guy.
Claiming fame must have changed now that we became strong.
I remain still the same, cause it's the same song.
I look back with the greatest fondness. Those were like some of the best times of my life.
It was the best time of his life because when Pac was with Digital Underground, he was just a dancer. He didn't have no strings. He didn't have to take no oath. But Pac wanted more, and he didn't know what was behind the green door. So when they approached him, Jimmy Iovine, Tom Wally, and also Ted Field. These guys are multi-millionaires. Pac had to take the Baphomet. He didn't know what this was, but he was down with it. They always let you taste the fruit before it goes sour. So everything started happening for Pac. The movies, his record being good, no matter if he was behind bars. Because remember, the elite make you a star. You don't even have to promote. They'll see that your recording sells because they own the industry. Pac would not find this out until he just about had enough of everybody coming to him for some sex, for some money, for some drugs. By this time, Pac has had enough, and he let it be known in 1996.
He is a dope producer, but he ain't worked in years. And I got tired of that. I didn't think we needed that. I think we didn't need that. And he was owning the company too, and he's chilling. He owning the company, he's chilling about fucking big easy Quincy. I'm out here in the street, you know what I mean? Whooping niggas ass, starting wars and shit, putting it down, dropping albums, doing my shit. And this nigga's taking 3 years to do one song. I couldn't have it. But it was not my decision. It was Suge's decision. Suge the one that was coming to me because I was soft on it. Like, you know, well, fuck you, we just keep it in the dark.
See, Suge knew that Pac was kind of green. He told Pac the things he wanted to hear. He acted like a big brother. He told Pac, if you ever get tired, you can go do anything else you want to do. I'll support you. He also let Pac know that don't ever go against the oath. That was a big pet peeve because Suge is a Mason. And also, Suge is a part of the Baphomet. That's how he get paid. So Suge do a candid interview to make it like he's all for the artists, and he's really not. He's for the elite.
I mean, I don't consider my people artists. I consider them family. It's just a big difference. If they decided to turn in rapping or singing, they still be my homeboys. We still travel together. If they need something, because mine will still be theirs. It's still the same thing. It's not no situation where I'm dealing with them strictly for business because they're good. Because they don't go like that. You gotta have a more, respect for your people. Plus, we got a Death Row East going on. Crusher, you heard about that.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, hello. Damu! Damu! Sit!
I used to rule the world. Seas would rise when I gave the word. Now in the morning I sleep alone. Sweep the streets I used to own.
There was a time when Suge was on top of the world. Nevertheless, Death Row and all the Suge access was frozen and liquidated. You would think he would be broke. But see how he's throwing up the Baphomet? Nah, they take care of their own. Especially after organizing the success hit on Pac. So he might be without Death Row, but he's not broke. Suge enjoyed the idea of the rivalry in East Coast, West Coast. That's why he was so candid to talk about it on film. I'm going to show this little invitation, this congrats that Quincy Jones sent Tupac. Tupac was not hearing this. But at the same time, Pac let it be known how he felt about the Illuminati, which was a mistake. He went against the oath again. He also talked about getting his own power structure. A mistake.
The next shit is called Killuminati because that's really what the Illuminati's on.
That's why I put the K to it. Because I wanted, the niggas is telling me about this Illuminati shit while I'm in jail, right? Like, the dollars and all that.
Right.
That's another way to keep your self-esteem low. That's another way to keep you unconfident.
Right.
And I'm putting the K because I'm killing that Illuminati shit. Trust me. If these motherfuckers wanted to kill you, why the fuck they gonna tell Farrakhan? Why they gonna tell the Nation of Islam? Why they gonna tell this nigga in jail about the plan? How did he know?
Right.
How did it leak to him? Who told him? Who told him? The Pope? By the next election, I promise, I'm gonna be sitting across from all the candidates. I bet you. You know how I be making it? I promise you. I'm not even gonna be, I'm gonna be so far from where I am now in 4 years. God willing, I'm alive. It's on. I guarantee you, we will have our own political party.
Staring at the world through my rear view. Scream to God, he can't hear you. Heart beating fast, time to die. Watch the time fly. Staring at the world through my rear view. Scream to God, he can't hear you. Heart beating fast, time to die. Watch the time fly.
Whoa.
Just after the Mike Tyson-Bruce Seldon fight, Shakur, along with record company executive Marion Suge Knight, headed for a nightclub. But while stopping at this intersection, a car with 4 people pulled up and opened fire on Shakur and Knight.
Tupac Shakur was shot several times in the chest.
Calls was made to Paramount to put all of Tupac's works on hold, especially the 2 movies were scheduled for release early '96, Gridlock, Gang Related. See, Pac did a lot of work, but they put it on hold once they heard the tapes. So none of the work was scheduled to be released until Pac officially died. There still was a problem, because Biggie was making mockery out of it. Calls was made to P. Diddy to kill Biggie, but not by himself. They wanted him to orchestrate it the way Suge orchestrated for Tupac, and they would do the rest. Tupac was not killed over disputes about wanting out of Death Row Records. Tupac was killed because he broke the Illuminati oath. Shalom.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me. Najee, thanks for having me. And Jared, thanks for giving me my first interview on WPFW a while back. I spent about 15 years working on this project. Started this project in December of 1994 when I was writing a political novel using a character based on the Shakurs. Based on a Black Panther, and the Shakurs were the leading Black Panthers. And I saw that Tupac was shot in a recording studio lobby, and the Washington Post had another strange twist. The same cops that arrived at that scene were the first to arrive at his sexual assault scene a year earlier. And so I called up his lawyer, Michael Treef Warren, an excellent human rights lawyer in New York, and that was Tupac's trial lawyer, and he said, and I said, do you think the FBI is targeting him, or the cops and FBI are targeting him like they targeted his Black Panther parents? And he said, yes, and no one's writing about it. So I ended up publishing a local article on it, and an article in a local magazine, and then finally in 1999, a national magazine finally published this article, and when I did that, people close to him asked me to turn it into a book. So I spent off and on that much time researching all the information you're going to see here. That included hundreds of interviews with people close to him, like his business manager, Watani Tayahimba, you'll see in a few minutes. Again, his trial lawyer, Michael Warren, people of that nature. I did a Freedom of Information Act request, and they told me, incidentally, they weren't supposed to, but they told me there was over 4,000 pages in Tupac's FBI file, and paid for those pages, but they only sent me 99 of them for, they said, for national security reasons. Okay, just for the sake of legitimacy, Fred Hampton Jr. contributed an afterword to the book. Pam Africa, head of the Free Mumia campaign, contributed a foreword to the book, which Mumia contributed a few words to, and then also an essay at the end of her foreword. This is just a copy of part of the letter I got from the Department of Justice about the money paid for the 4,000 pages to be copied. This is Watani Tayahimba, Tupac's longtime business manager, who was a former Los Angeles-based Black Panther, and then was a co-founding leader of the New African Peoples Organization, and he was a longtime family friend and mentor of Afeni and Tupac Shakur. This is Fred Hampton Jr., and again, I'm sorry, it looks like I'm having problems with these things. I'm having problems with technology, and these are going out of order, but I'm going to just talk about them anyway, each slide. This is Fred Hampton Jr.'s group, the Prisoners of Conscience Committee. They attacked Tupac partly because he was the son of a black leader. Quincy Shakur was a one-time head of the Harlem Black Panthers. Fred Hampton, you may know, was head of the Chicago Black Panthers. His son became a national socialist leader of the Uhuru group, and of course they attacked him. He ended up in jail for years on a frame-up. When he got out of jail, he started a new group, the Prisoners of Conscience Committee. I'm going to have to try to fast forward a little because things are out of order. But this is a picture of H. Rap Brown. He was a member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, an honorary Black Panther, and of course the FBI's COINTELPRO, counterintelligence program, set him up against Huey Newton. They set up most of the Black Panther leaders against each other. And this is a book by Huey Newton called War Against the Panthers, which documents a lot of the tactics the FBI used against the Panthers. This is Mumia Abu-Jamal. I have a section of the book on Mumia. Because of the fact that he was a co-founding leader of the Philadelphia Black Panthers, but I also believe some of the same tactics were used against Tupac as were used against Mumia. Sorry. This is Michael Treef Warren, Tupac's trial lawyer, who's a longtime Black Liberation Movement figure also. This is Afeni, in their younger days when she had headed the Harlem Black Panthers when Lumumba, her husband, was in jail and she was out on bail. But she was one of the Panther 21, of course, the leading Black Panthers. And sorry, these got out of order. I'm just going to review them anyway. I'll just say there was, after Tupac died, there were a few relatively good articles that covered some of the police tactics and the police foul play. One of them was by the editor at the New Yorker named Connie Bruck. She pointed out that at the sexual assault trial, you might remember in New York, she pointed out that there was the prosecutors treated Tupac much differently than the person that set up that whole situation, which was a guy named Haitian Jacques Agnant. You may have heard of Tupac's song where he talks about Haitian Jack knew he was working for the feds, he said, meaning the FBI. Michael Warren said that he finally got this Jacques Agnant's rap sheet and a huge list of charges all dismissed up and down the East Coast. And he said that's a sure sign of a police intelligence agent. And so she's pointing out the unusual aspect of them treating Jacques Agnant differently than Tupac. Okay, and so for doing that, for coming out with some real information on Tupac's life for the first time in a while, I mean there's a lot of disinformation on Tupac's life, but for coming out with a lot of real information on him, she was interviewed by the FBI, according to Tupac's FBI file. Okay, this is Tupac at the scene where I had first, heard about him being, what I felt was him being targeted. This was right after he was shot 4 times in a New York recording studio lobby. I've got an affidavit in here, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to bring it up, but it's in my DVD based on the book, that says he was shot 4 times, 2 bullets went through the back of his skull and out the front of his skull, okay? And he didn't die. It was a miracle that he didn't die. But this was obviously an assassination attempt, okay? And I'll tell you a little more about his life to say why assassination, I use the word assassination. But they were trying to kill him. This wasn't a random mugging like all the press said. The police came to the investigation scene, and the security guards, according to a mainstream published book, security guards offered them the security camera, a videotape of this whole incident, and they refused it and closed the case. Okay, so the police, knew what was going on with that. This is Lumumba Shakur, founding member of the Harlem Black Panthers and Afeni's first husband. Now, in my book is subtitled U.S. Intelligence's Murderous Targeting of Tupac, MLK, Malcolm, Panthers, Hendrix Marley rappers, and linked ethnic leftists. I'd like to say, you know, we shouldn't separate these incidents. They're all under the umbrella of U.S. intelligence targeting for radical activism, good activism, I should say, you know, good radical activism to help the general population. So I have a chapter, and this man, William Pepper, was a friend of Martin Luther King's before he died. He was a journalist then, he became a lawyer after that. He ended up doing about a 20-some-year investigation and came out with many of the tactics that were used by U.S. intelligence to assassinate Martin Luther King. He also represented the Martin Luther King family in a historic trial in 1999, which most of you probably never heard of because it was so buried by mainstream media. If they did cover it, they distorted it in a huge way. He won, the King family won a trial saying that against one of the co-conspirators with the government in the assassination of Martin Luther King. And in all of his research, we come up with a lot of tactics that I found were also used against Tupac Shakur's family and Tupac Shakur himself. Of course, Malcolm X was a huge inspiration for the Black Panthers, for Tupac. Him and Martin Luther King were getting very close before before Malcolm's death. Now, the same an undercover U.S. intelligence agent infiltrated Malcolm's group. He rose to head of security, and he was the first person to arrive at Malcolm X's body when he was assassinated. Now, William Pepper showed that the first person to arrive at Martin Luther King's body was also an undercover agent, a military intelligence agent named Merrill McCullough. The one that first came to Malcolm X's body was named Eugene Roberts. He ended up staying undercover to the point that he then became part of Afeni Shakur's New York Black Panthers and framed them, and then in court came out as an agent and testified against the Panther 21, Afeni and her fellow Panther 21. So he revealed himself. Merrill McCullough never revealed himself, but right after Martin Luther King's assassination, where they have a picture of him at his body, the first person at his body to check on life signs to make sure the assassination worked, he got promoted to the CIA after that incident, after the assassination of Martin Luther King. I'm sorry.
My policeman, it was some motoring misdemeanor. He just turned around and said, "Oh good, this must mean you found my television." I tell you what, if I was a policemanist and my chief Freemason came into the office one morning and said, I mean chief constable.
Okay, we know some of this from whistleblowers. We know some of what happens with the CIA and the FBI from whistleblowers, like Victor Marchetti, the highest level whistleblower in the 1970s. And I'll just say, I'm going to go back. Well, I'm going to touch on this in a minute. Victor Marchetti said the huge majority of CIA leaders were from the super rich white Anglo-Saxon Protestant families. They were heavily bigoted, heavily bigoted. Another woman named Frances Stoner Saunders wrote a book called The Cultural Cold War about the founders of the CIA, all from the super rich family, the Rockefellers, you know, the Mellons, the Harrimans, you recognize a lot of the names, you know, J.P. Morgan, etc. They were incredibly bigoted. Of course, they were incredibly racist, but they were also bigoted against all ethnic groups. For example, right after World War II, they saved these Nazis. They saved the Bush administration today. You know, this current Bush administration even admitted that they saved over 100 Nazis. But professors like Peter Dale Scott of the University of California, Berkeley, wrote an article with these pictures in it that said they saved thousands of Nazis, spread them all over the world, and had them do U.S. intelligence and British intelligence bidding. A large portion of these Nazis were actually sent throughout Latin America. And this man, Walter Roth, worked for the dictator of Chile, Pinochet, and he had previously invented the gas chamber during Nazi Germany. And it says under there, of course, he worked, the operations, the CIA operations were called Operation Sunshine and had a number of Operation Paperclip for scientists, etc. So this just says that he worked for Alan Dulles, a former CIA director. Okay, here's Bobby Seale and Huey Newton when they started the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. And, just to make sure for people that don't realize, they had a 10-point platform doing incredible things for their community. First, of course, they had the guns to protect themselves from police brutality. They weren't, as some accounts say, to attack police. They were to protect themselves. There was rampant police brutality. They also had free breakfast programs for poor children. They had free health programs. They had free education, political education programs, housing programs, etc. They had a newspaper, of course, to educate the community. This is Sekou Odinga. I'm sorry, the picture's a little blurred. He was a good friend of Lumumba Shakur's and was assigned as, him and Lumumba were also part of Malcolm X's group right before Malcolm X was assassinated. Lumumba Shakur's father was Saluddin Abba Shakur, and he was a close associate of Malcolm X's, okay, before Malcolm X was assassinated. He was made head of the Bronx Black Panthers and is now a political prisoner. There's Kathleen Cleaver and Eldridge Cleaver. Eldridge Cleaver was Minister of Information. He was, a famous author, had a best-selling author, Soul on Ice, and then was made Minister of Information for the National Black Panther Party. Kathleen Cleaver was a spokeswoman for the Black Panther Party nationally, and is now a law professor trying to get good words out on the Panthers. This is a CIA document. I've got hundreds of these CIA documents that different good Black Panthers have given me to help with this project. This one just happens to talk about Harry Belafonte. Harry Belafonte was a major funder of Martin Luther King and other black activists. And so they watched him closely, and they put an undercover agent as they inserted him as his manager. He pretended to be a top civil rights activist, and it was a white guy who just got famous for his hardcore activism. He became his agent, but when Belafonte realized that he was sabotaging his career and his activism, he fired him. Okay. All right. We're having problems with with this, so I'm going to exit and see if I can't find a few more files for you. I'm sorry that some of these, all right, I'm going to give you a little more here. Here's a picture of Geronimo Pratt with a young Tupac, and there's Afeni Shakur in the upper left-hand corner, and in the lower left-hand corner is Sekou Shakur. And now Geronimo Pratt was in jail at this time. He was head of the Los Angeles Black Panthers, and was framed by a guy named Richard Held, who I'm going to hopefully get to in a few minutes. But he was Tupac Shakur's godfather. Okay, I'm hopefully going to get you more than this. But I'm going to talk a little more and hopefully be able to find some of the stuff I'd like to find for you. Sorry guys, technological problems for sure. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to look for them and talk at the same time because the information is more important than the pictures, I think. I'll just say, so let me give you a new version of Tupac's history. Before he died, an East-West Panther War was created by the FBI. The FBI sent fake letters, had undercover agents pitting Panther leaders against each other. The biggest, and it turned out, the media hyped it as an East Coast versus West Coast Panther War, according to Kathleen Cleaver. They pitted Afeni's New York Black Panthers against the California-based Huey Newton's California-based Panthers. Okay, they ended up aligning New York's Panthers with Eldridge Cleaver, who they attempted to assassinate with a fuselage of bullets. They just, they tried to kill him. He ended up going to Algeria with Kathleen, started a Panther in Exile group there, and then they pitted him and Newton against each other. Okay, and if it's East-West versus, East versus West Panther War sounds familiar, of course it should. They use the same tactics for the East Coast versus West Coast rap war. I found the same anonymous letters coming to Tupac in jail, strangers telling Tupac, you don't know who shot you? Of course, it was Biggie, your friend, Biggie, that set you up for a shooting. Okay, and how could they do that against Tupac in jail? Tupac is brilliant, I'll tell you how brilliant he was, because they were torturing him in jail, but I'll get into that in a minute too. So we found a lot of the same tactics used against the Panthers. So Afeni Shakur represents herself in court. She's credited for getting all the Panther 21 off in court. She gets out of jail. Her and Lumumba end up divorcing, but she ends up moving in with Lumumba's adopted brother, Mutulu Shakur, who was a co-founding leader of the Republic of New Africa, which was a huge national group, a very highly respected national group of activists. And he was also doing acupuncture, and he was head of the Lincoln Detox in the Bronx, where I happened to study acupuncture myself. Of course, long after him. But he was highly respected. He was doing great work for addictions in the Bronx, and he was doing such good work, the city decided to close his detox down, his clinic down, and because he was also doing political education. He was doing political education with a number of different activists from the Students for Democratic Society, Puerto Rican independence activists. He had like a rainbow group of activists doing great work in Lincoln Detox. When they closed Lincoln Detox down, some activists decided to appropriate, they call it expropriate money by robbing banks. Now, Mutulu ended up going to jail for one of these bank robberies. There was no, he actually wasn't even charged with the actual committing of the robbery. He was charged with conspiring to commit the robbery. There was no physical evidence that he even conspired to commit the robbery, okay? But conspiring is usually how they get activists or they get anyone they want to charge, by saying you were loosely involved, you knew of it in some way, shape, or form. So they ended up, putting loads and loads of people in jail for conspiring to commit the crime. It turns out their top witness was the guy who actually shot a bank truck driver. Their top witness. That witness was found to be an informant. An informant is usually someone who's been paid by the FBI. Someone being paid by the FBI, we really should call an agent, not an informant. So this undercover agent is the one that actually did the murder that Mutulu ended up going to jail for. This guy got 6 years for that murder. He got out in 6 months. Mutulu got 40 years for conspiring to be involved in that situation. Okay, and Shakur Dinga was a co-founding member of the Black Liberation Army with Zaid Shakur, Mutulu's brother. Also, Zaid ended up getting killed with Asad Shakur, but he had founded the Black Liberation Army. But Shakur Dinga ended up going to jail for that incident. Okay, I'm just going to move up a little bit here. Now, Tupac grew up with Mutulu as one of his top mentors. Geronimo Pratt was in jail on a frame-up, but was another of his top mentors. And that's why, of course, and Afeni, his mom, was a top mentor, and that's why he had such a revolutionary mindset. He was asked by a priest when he was 13 years old, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, a revolutionary. And I think he never lost that mindset. He just changed his tactics. By the time he was 17, he was incredibly precocious, for one thing. Professor Michael Eric Dyson said that he had read hundreds and hundreds of PhD-level books before he got out of his teen years. He would take Shakespeare plays, rewrite them, and produce them and star in them, in California. And he was also incredibly well respected to the point that he was the youngest ever elected chair of the New African Panthers, which was the young adult group of the New African People's Organization. It was active in 8 cities nationwide. And it was about the same ages as many of the original Black Panthers when they started the Black Panthers across the country. So it was a very serious group that he was running, activist group that he was running. So he was already a black activist leader, national black activist leader, before he broke into rap at the ages of 17 and 18 years old. And he was very serious. He was the top newspaper salesman for the group in California. Panther Power was a newspaper insert that he created. So after he got, to out of, I'm going to expand this, I guess, maybe that will help. That makes me lose the side. Is there a way, Najee, is there a way to get this? There we go. 1 second, guys. So after he got out of the Panthers, he broke into rap with Digital Underground. Digital Underground invited him for a tour. And he decided to leave his Panther leadership to do that because he thought maybe he could have a bigger mouthpiece and more influence as a rapper. Digital Underground had already made it big by that point. And then, of course, he broke out with his first solo CD. Now, this was the first assassination attempt, I believe. Within days, several days of his MTV worldwide release of Trapped, of the song Trapped on his first album, Tupacalypse Now, police stopped him for jaywalking. They then proceeded to pound his head against the curb and choke him unconscious, according to legal documents I have in here. I found 2 articles that noted that when police had someone in custody that way, it resulted in the victim's death. Okay, choking them unconscious and pounding their head against the curb repeatedly. So I think that was the first assassination attempt, partly because of timing, partly because it happened in the San Francisco Bay Area. Now, in the San Francisco Bay Area, there was a man named Richard Held, who was head of the FBI office. Richard Held had framed Tupac's godfather, Geronimo Pratt. He had also played a crucial part in creating the East Coast versus West Coast Panther War. Huey Newton ended up getting into the same jail as Pratt in the late 1980s, okay? Tupac was head of the New African Panthers at that time. He said he was consulting with Pratt and Huey Newton on his Panther leadership. Huey Newton actually was split from Pratt by the East Coast versus West Coast Panther War. In prison, they decided to come together and end the East Coast versus West Coast split, and they started working together. And in August, which is an important date, in August of 1988, Huey Newton held a press conference. He was released from jail, and instead he said, "I'm not leaving jail until they release Geronimo Pratt." And a lot of press covered it. I got the newspapers in that area that covered this. Exactly 1 year later, he was assassinated. Huey Newton was assassinated. I got the articles that cover that assassination, and they say, and the press often reported it as a botched drug deal, but eyewitnesses say that he was shot once to put him on the ground and twice in the head, which is a known U.S. intelligence assassination, way of killing someone. A lot of other evidence show that Richard Held, the FBI agent in charge, orchestrated it and then tried to cover it up. Okay, and that 1 year anniversary timing I found was also used. William Pepper said it was used to assassinate Martin Luther King. On the exact year anniversary, he said, of Martin Luther King saying he opposed the Vietnam War in 1967, exactly 1 year later he was assassinated. And he says he does not think that was a coincidence. He thinks that was a purposeful timing tactic to warn other people off from opposing, other top leaders from opposing the Vietnam War. I then found this in Tupac's life. Exactly 3 years after Huey Newton's assassination, there was the Marin City Festival. Did anyone hear about a little boy being shot at the Marin City Festival? Yeah. What happened was, when you check out the closest witnesses to that event, what you find is that somebody punched Tupac for no reason once he's already a rap star. He's a rap star. It's 1992. People, he's signing autographs. He's an honorary guest at this Marin City Festival, signing autographs. Someone punches him in the face for no reason. Then they shoot at him. Maurice Mopreme Harding, Mutulu Shakur's son, was bodyguarding Tupac at that time. He took out a gun and fired straight in the air to try to protect him, to warn these people off, these strangers that were attacking him for no reason. It didn't stop them. They kept attacking, so they had more guns. They were trying to kill Tupac. And I don't think it's a coincidence that was the exact anniversary of Huey Newton's death. Tupac loved Huey Newton. He wrote poems to him about him and all. So that was assassination attempt number 3, I believe, because the second one was when Tupac came out with Juice at the film premiere party, which was in San Francisco. Someone did a drive-by on his limousine. Okay, Tupac wasn't in a gang, wasn't involved with gangs at that time. They did a drive-by on his limousine, and I found another incident where unmarked police cars with police out of uniform had done a drive-by on an important witness in a police brutality case against a NFL football player. And so these tactics have been used before, okay? These are 3 tactics early on, okay? Then Tupac got bigger and bigger, of course, as a rap and film star, we know. Now, while he was doing that, he still kept his political activist agenda. He had Watani Tayahimba become his business manager, and Watani was one of the leaders of the New African People's Organization. Chokwe Lumumba was his national lawyer. He was head of the New African People's Organization. Tupac had developed a plan called the Thug Life Movement with Mutulu Shakur, who was in prison still. But that plan was to further a movement already started by former Panthers who were getting the Bloods and Crips gangs to call a peace truce and stop fighting each other and to fight racism and to fight capitalism in general, because a number of them were turning socialist and were working as left-wing activists, to the point that one Crip leader spoke to a socialist black group in England called Panther. So, and we also know that Monster Cody Scott had turned into a Marxist. His best-selling book talked about his Marxist conversion, and he changed his name to Sonika Shakur out of tribute to the Shakurs before Tupac died. So Tupac was actually having a lot of success with this in furthering this gang peace truce movement that was spreading throughout the country. He was present at gang peace truce picnics. It spread across the country to the point that even the Latin Kings, New York's largest gang of Latinos, was converted to activism based on this peace truce movement. And so for that, he was a danger. He was a threat to U.S. intelligence, of course, and the super rich. So what happened next was he was in Atlanta, and you might have heard that he shot some cops. If you read the details, if you read the local papers, if you talk to his lawyer, which I did, I talked to his lawyer who talked to many witnesses, both white and black witnesses said that it looked like a gang of white people attacked Tupac's car. Top witnesses said, I talked to Watani Taihimba, said, gave me details too. Tupac's cousin was in the convoy, gave me details. Basically, a cop took his gun, smashed Tupac's window, and shot at him. Okay, and he was supposedly an off-duty cop. Of course, he wasn't in uniform. It was found that that gun was stolen from an evidence locker. They call that a throwaway gun. Gun you commit a murder and then you throw it away so you can't be traced to it. So that kid ended up coming out in the paper. So how did a black man get off of shooting two white cops several times in Atlanta? So Tupac got off completely. He got off completely because it was a botched assassination attempt, I believe, and they didn't want to reveal that. Okay, so Tupac really just dodged a bullet, ran back, grabbed the security guard's gun, and shot back at him because they started to run with their gun pointed back, still pointing it at Tupac. So after that, we have another assassination attempt that occurred, but at first it was a frame-up attempt. Haitian Jacques Agnant had entered Tupac's life when he was filming in New York on the Above the Rim film set. Tupac said all of his money was going to his Black Panther extended family. It was also going to his lawyers because they were using what we call the harassment arrest strategy that they used against the Panthers. They were using, I believe, against Tupac. Constant arrests on public, smoking weed in public. Like they said in a hotel lobby, which is an absurd thing. Tupac was way too smart to do that, I believe. For slapping a woman, asking for his autograph, all kinds of ridiculous charges they were bringing up against him. It was constant money to lawyers, constant money to get out of jail. He was also supporting a huge amount of activists in his life, too. So this guy with tons of money, Haitian Jack, is supposed to be a music promoter, enters his life, loads him with clothes and jewelry, and ends up introducing him to a woman in a dance club who gives him a blowjob on the dance floor. Admittedly, two witnesses and all have said they saw him. She admitted in court kissing his penis on the dance floor. They have consensual sex that night, and then several nights later, she charges Tupac and Haitian Jacques Agnant with forced sodomy, and a number of other charges were brought, against Tupac. Now, of course, there's loads of horrible brutality against women and rape out there, but this looked like a setup. Haitian Jack set the whole thing up, and Tupac ended up finding all that out. Now, Tupac ended up, if you look at the court documents, which I have in the DVD and the book, you'll see that the only count that Tupac was found guilty of was touching the woman's butt against her will. It was constantly misrepeated as either rape or even sexual assault, which you don't know what exactly that means. It was touching a woman's butt against her will when both parties agreed they had consensual sex. Okay, and then it said assisting the touching of her butt against her will. Okay, he was found not guilty of sodomy, not guilty of assisting sodomy, not guilty of attempted sodomy, not guilty of all other charges. For that one charge of touching the woman's butt against her will and assisting Haitian Jack of touching her butt against her will, he got 1.5 to 4.5 years in a maximum security prison. What did Haitian Jack get? 2 misdemeanors, practically traffic tickets. Okay.
If you don't go to prison, it's only a few things, you got to be working with the police.
So he ends up in prison, and then they transferred him from Rikers in New York City all the way up to Dannemora, New York, Clinton Correctional Facility. And why did they do that? Because they wanted to use penal coercion tactics, I believe. I've got a document on the 8 penal coercion tactics they use against activists in prison that Amnesty International put in a report. I found that all of those tactics were used against Tupac in prison. Plus, they tortured him. They Every time someone visited him, they stuck their gloved finger up his rectum, saying they were looking for drugs, even though they were, the whole, interview, the whole visit from his friends was in view of the guards. And so they scrambled his brain in prison, I believe. And they did this for two reasons. One, to set up the East Coast versus West Coast rap war between him and Biggie. And the other was to get him to sign to Death Row Records. He was on Interscope at the time, and Death Row kept asking him to sign. And what Tiny Tim said he didn't know why. They kept asking them to sign to Death Row Records. And Death Row was even part of Interscope. It didn't really make sense to them. What they found is that Dave Kenner and Suge Knight, Dave Kenner is actually this white lawyer who's the real owner of Death Row Records. But they found that there was dozens and dozens of police officers at all levels of Death Row Records. There was, a police detective, high-level police detective, was put in charge of the Biggie Smalls murder investigation later. He ended up finding that they were at all levels of Death Row Records. And his superior said that you could call these cops covert agents. All right, those were the superior's words. It was published in a mainstream book, actually. So they were setting up, they were furthering the penal coercion when Tupac got out of jail. They kept beating people in front of him, kind of terrorizing Tupac. They kept feeding him weed and alcohol, even though Tupac said he was going to give up weed once he was in jail, because that's the way the recording studio lobby setup worked on him. He says he was too stoned to realize that this was a setup when he went into that recording studio lobby and got shot. So he was going to give up weed, but they kept loading him with weed and alcohol. They terrorized people in front of him. He came out with his most negative lyrics, right after jail, as you know, as anyone who's heard his stuff after jail. But of course, he still sold huge because he was so popular for all the stuff he had done before that. And he was a brilliant rapper. He was a brilliant guy. So once he was with Death Row, he had signed a contract for 3 CDs, and then he was done. Now, Death Row, they found also, was trafficking drugs. They were employing Bloods and Crips, who they would instigate fights between, to the point of a Blood killed a Crip at a public concert, and nobody was arrested for it. Witnesses gave reports to cops, no one was arrested. Death Row terrorized basically the whole rap community. They went around the country terrorizing political rap conventions, like the one Tupac had been asked to speak at twice, and then was arrested before he could speak sometimes. They did a number of horrible things, but one of their top goals appeared to be to set up Tupac, set up his assassination eventually. Once they, first they had him promote the most negative lyrics and negative ideas, and they also instigated the East Coast West Coast rap war in a huge way too. Tupac was getting away from that. He had started his own record label, Euthanasia Records. He had Shakur Dinga's wife, head of that record company. He was still connected with a lot of his extended family of Black Panthers. And Shakur Dinga, the Bronx Black Panther leader's son, was his backup singer, Yafu Fula. And so we have one police whistleblower telling what was happening at Death Row. We have another whistleblower named Kevin Hackey, who was FBI agent. Actually, he was an undercover FBI agent. Was made to be one of Tupac's 2 bodyguards. Now, we found that he turned on the FBI because at the last second before Las Vegas, a day or two before Las Vegas, where Tupac was assassinated, he told Tupac not to go to Las Vegas. He tried to convince him not to go to Las Vegas. Tupac had to go for other reasons. But as soon as Suge Knight and Dave Kenner found out that Kevin Hackey was trying to get him not to go to Las Vegas, they fired Hackey. They also, of course, took the guns and cell phones away from the other guards around Tupac. And, of course, in Las Vegas, he was assassinated. And, of course, 13 bullets coming at Tupac, not hitting Suge Knight directly is a sign that there was a purposeful avoidance of Suge Knight in that assassination. But I still think he was lower man on the totem pole. Dave Kenner was higher up on the totem pole. Another man who was high up on the totem pole was Reggie Wright Jr. Reggie Wright Sr. was head of the Compton, California Gang Police Division. So they were trying to end the Blood Crips gang peace truce inside of Death Row also. Now, while Tupac was in the hospital dying, the Blood Crips truce was broken. Suge Knight and other Death Row Records people said the Crips killed Tupac, and they also were caught sending shipments of guns to Bloods around the area that were part of the peace truce. A lot of people died. A lot of Bloods and Crips died in that week until activists spread the word that no, the Crips didn't kill Tupac. We don't think the Crips killed Tupac, and it stopped. So the peace truce movement continued. But of course, they assassinated Tupac. Kevin Hackey ended up saying saying to the director of Biggie and Tupac that he had documents to prove that the FBI watched Tupac's assassination. They were in the cars of the convoy in Las Vegas when Tupac was assassinated. He said he was jailed for several months because of that, because of going against the FBI. And now he's scared, a little scared for his life, so he's not saying as much. But he's already been caught saying, the good things about, to impugn the FBI for orchestrating Tupac's assassination. So it didn't stop there. At the next Mike Tyson fight, months later, Yafu Fula, Tupac's backup singer, who I told you was Kuru Dinga's son and was had rap star potential himself, was shot in the head. He was the top witness to Tupac's assassination. He said he thought he could identify the killer. After that, of course, they killed Biggie, and even that police detective who was the lead investigator of Biggie said he thinks that his fellow officers killed Biggie Smalls to cover up Tupac's assassination, to make it look like part of the East Coast versus West Coast rap war. Now, since then, it's come out in some mainstream sources, though, of course, in a completely convoluted way, and Jared's told you a lot about the media, and I'm glad he did, and I have a chapter or two on the media myself. But it came out that there are rap units in New York has a police rap unit, and Los Angeles is a police rap unit. Miami Herald said those rap units are training rap units, other police units around the country to have a rap unit to attack rappers. So they are attacking political rappers. I think they're using the harassment arrest strategy, and I show evidence of that. I think they are trying to kill other rappers, show evidence of that. And they have killed other rappers. Run DMC, for example, is their top DJ was Jam Master Jay Mizell. The Baltimore Sun say he had become a social activist before his death, and he was shot in the head. There was a security video camera on him and on the in his recording studio when he was killed. The police have not told us anything that was on that camera, once again, just like the recording studio camera in New York. So I think I used up enough time. I've used up too much time, I'll just say one or two other things, guys. This is going on against black activist leaders. It's also going on against people like I found that the cops that assassinated Tupac were mostly from the Ramparts Division. That's one of 18 Los Angeles police divisions. The Ramparts Division was the division found to work with the CIA to assassinate Robert F. Kennedy. Okay, and that's an important thing to recognize, that they were targeting white activist leaders who turned radical too. And Richard Held, the guy that orchestrated Huey Newton's assassination, a year after that, orchestrated the bombing of an environmental leader named Judy Barry. A bomb went off under her car seat. She survived and died 6 years later, but he ended up being found, so guilty of that, of orchestrating that incident, that he had to retire early to get out of a major lawsuit she had where she wound up winning millions of dollars against him and against the government for that incident. So I'm going to stop there. Thanks, guys.